I call to order the April 20th, 2021 meeting of the City of Bloomington Board of Public Safety to order. Do I have approval of the minutes from March 23rd, 2021? A motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Are we doing roll call?
Yes, we'll do a roll call vote. Rafi,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Luis,
Yes.
Shruti.
Yes.
And Chris, do we need a vote for the certification?
Nope, you're just going to make a statement
Okay.
that,
Sorry. Yeah, I certify the executive session that was just held prior to our meeting. Now we have police department business.
Okay, so we'll start with report on monthly statistics and training. And I have to admit, I forgot my glasses, so I will struggle to try to read this. You have it in your packet, and so you can see the calls for service for 2021 are slightly less than March of 2020. So far, each month this year, 2021 numbers have been less, but then COVID had not quite hit with a vengeance the first couple of months of last year. So we anticipate those numbers will go down. There's no way I can read the small print on some of these charts, so you are on your own for those. And I will ask if anybody has any questions on the really small charts that I cannot read. You can see the adult arrests were down this month as compared to last year, and that's been the case for all of this year compared to the first 3 months of last year. Again, we're responding to fewer calls because of COVID-related activities. Training, we had a total of 1,028 training hours. Some of the highlights were the basic hostage negotiation training. We had our mandatory annual training blocks, which is state mandated training that we're required to do every year. 27 officers have taken advantage of that in March. Community engagement is still way down, although our hope is this summer we will start to reinstitute doing some of our community engagement activities by using the switchyard office. That seems to be a good location. It's outside, and we can kind of control the crowd size and things like that.
Chief, what page are you on? I'm lost.
This one, can you see it? It's
April 20th, 2020
yes.
is ahead.
It's got
Yeah,
the top
got it.
categories: crime, trends, major cases, and then it goes to training.
Yeah, got it.
Next page is I want to highlight the police social worker. Our second social worker started at the end of March. Her name is Lysandra McCoy. She comes from us from the school corporation. She is kind of in a training mode right now where she's doing a lot of ride-alongs and a lot of shadowing so she can kind of see what the job is like, but she has fit in quite well. We had a total number of 21 referrals last month and a total of 233 contacts. Just for your information, our third social worker will start in the middle of May. She's not started yet. She's just graduating from IU. So by the middle of May, we will have 3 social workers on staff, and we intend to increase the number of hours that we have department coverage and to hopefully increase the outreach that they do also.
Chief, can I ask you on that point very quickly? And you know, when I say very quickly, that's my way of saying it's not going to be quick. I just want to prepare you. On the social workers, I am surprised that we hired 2 and we didn't hear about it. And that's not a pushback on my part. I'm just surprised because we do all the hiring about which we know nothing. We just rubber
Well,
stamp usually or ask questions.
Your statutory responsibility is hiring of sworn police officers, not civilian employees.
So I figured that. So the question was, how did that hiring happen? Like you have a how did you internally, you and the deputy chief and
We advertised the position, and then we got applications. We weeded through the applications to look to see if there were any that were just far outliers that didn't have the qualifications. Then we ended up interviewing all the other candidates. We did not have a huge number of applicants, so it was pretty easy to do the interviews. And we had myself, our current social worker, and a member of the Centerstone administration help do those interviews. And when the excuse me, when those were completed, we made our selection.
And if I may ask you, the reason I ask is, do you look for, let me back up and just tell you that I am surprised that somebody out of not even graduated, I mean, she must be he, she, they, I don't know the person, must be terrific. It's not a criticism, but I am a bit surprised that the person who was hired hasn't graduated yet. So I'm wondering, you know, this is, in my mind, this is a really important thing, which is not to say that it is not to you, by the way, but I'm wondering, do you look for specific background issues or training or classes or anything?
She's graduating with a master's degree.
Okay.
And so she's got an advanced degree. She has a interest in doing this type of work. And so she seemed like a good fit for the department. Keep in mind, we don't get tons of applications. I think last time we ended up interviewing 2 or 3 people, and that was it, because we just don't have a great number of applicants. But she fit all of the criteria that we were looking for and met all of the criteria for the job. So she got a job offer.
You don't misunderstand me. I wasn't in any way criticizing. I was wondering, and this being the position that I think it is, and I know you do too. I was just wondering about the process, but that's, I'm fine. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and related to that, I'm curious to know, what is the training like? How do you introduce them to being a social worker in a police department?
So what we have them do is we believe that one of the main things that they need to know is actually what we do. So they spend the first couple of weeks riding with different officers, riding on different shifts, going out with different specialty units so that they see everything that we do. If they don't know what the police department does, it makes it really hard for them to do their job. And so once they kind of get a basic understanding of what we do, then they get into more in-depth work with our current social worker on the types of cases that she's dealing with. So she does a lot of case management. She gets a lot of individuals referred to her from the street officers who are working. There are some people that she has already built up relationships with that call her directly. And so, excuse me, that is kind of all part of it. She has all of the education level to be a social worker. She has her certifications. And so we don't have to worry about that part. We just have to introduce her to the police department and what we do. And so because Melissa's been with us for a couple of years, she has a system set up that we basically are placing the new social workers in so they can see how we've done things in the past. We're fortunate because the newest social worker, Lysandra, she has a background in working with children and families, which is not something that that Melissa had a lot of experience in. So we're building different kind of areas of expertise within the social worker unit themselves.
Lysandra McCoy is a splash hire. So I know that you posted her hiring on your social media page. So I was able to kind of see a few things. So I do know Lysandra, and she's working over in our adult education program for NCCSC, and certainly has, roots in the community. So I know it'll be a great hire. I think it's a great fit.
Yes.
So yeah, and if I'm right, is it that particularly when they're social workers, don't they have to fulfill practicum hours, kind of working with, in order, I guess, for graduation, and are some of those hours done with the police department, just in terms of your new candidate? So is she able to get, practicum?
Mike, I can take this if you'd like.
Well, I just wanted to add that Lysandra's been in the Bloomington area for several years, so we were fortunate to find her. She talks daily how much more she enjoys working at the police department than she does at the school corporation. That's a joke. But she's turned out, she's going to be a really great hire for us. She's got a lot of community knowledge. She has a lot of community contacts. And so those are really important attributes to have, and especially in this position. We both joke a lot about how many more people we know than everybody else. So she's got those community contacts, which is really important. You are right, Rafi. There are certain education and training credits because of their specialization and their licensing that they have to maintain, and that's something that the department pays for. I do know that they have to have professional mentors and stuff, and those roles are being filled by other licensed social workers in the community. Ryan, I don't know if you want to add to that.
I'm sorry, I'm just going to chime in, Rafi. I know you asked about some further training or some further oversight. Both Lysandra and I think the new one as well when she starts, but currently Melissa are working towards their licensed clinical social worker, which does require mentoring, and I think they have to have like oversight for so many hours. And we've partnered with Centerstone, and they're currently both working towards that. And then our new employee will be as well. She has all of her hours already in for her master's through Center, or I'm sorry, I guess she will have come, I think 2 weeks from now when she graduates, but she will then begin the process of also becoming a licensed clinical social worker, working through Centerstone to have that oversight.
And I had one more question as well. Was the reason for going from 1 to 3 social workers, was that because of increased needs or demands or shifting additional responsibilities or something like that? Since I was
this was prior to you being on the board, but one of the things that we did was the mayor's office capped the number of police officers. We're authorized 105, but capped us at 100, and asked that we look at hiring more social workers and more community resource specialists instead of officers. They cannot do the full job of a police officer, but there are areas that they can help out in.
Thank you.
Thank you. I know we paused you, I think, at community engagement.
I think that was it.
That was it?
That's at least all I can read without my glasses.
Okay.
I think next is letters of appreciation.
Mhm.
In your packet is a letter from the Indiana Law Enforcement Training Board. We had been selected back in, I think, early March to be a regional training facility to train officers because of the backlog suffered from last year with the academy closing. Unfortunately, we did not get enough participants to sustain a class, so the academy canceled our class, but they were able to get the people that we had signed up in the next training academy, which starts in early June. So BPD is not really out anything. We're just kind of put about a month behind in training for new officers. General business is next. We've been busy doing a lot of different things, but I don't really have a list of general business items that we're dealing with. We have rolled out the incentive program with the take-home vehicles and the housing incentives, and we've had, I believe we're up to 4 or 5 officers who have taken advantage of the housing incentives that the city's offering. And we have roughly 13 vehicles assigned in the city limits and 13 assigned to on-call people in the county as well for that program. Any questions about that?
Yeah, I'm curious to know how you determine who gets those. I mean, you're offering them to everyone and whoever is served?
No. So people who live in this within the city limits are eligible to have a take-home vehicle, and so if they are in good standing in the department, not in any trouble or causing problems, then they get a take-home vehicle. And then the specialty units like our hostage negotiation team, our critical incident response team, those who might be called out at a moment's notice, those people were also assigned take-home vehicles if they lived in the county. It's based on kind of on-call emergency need basis, basically. They have additional equipment. They can store some of that equipment in their vehicles, and it just makes it quicker for a response. They can go directly to the scene instead of reporting to the department to gather everything up and then go to the scene.
And then the housing benefit, what exactly is that?
So there's 2 different ones. There's a down payment assistance on a new house if you decide to purchase a home within the city limits, and that's a $12,000 down payment assistance program. And if it's you have to live in the house for, I believe it's at least 2 years. If you leave before that, then it's a prorated reimbursement back to the city. And then the rental assistance is the other one. So if you live in an apartment, there's a $500, I believe it's a $500 a month stipend for rent assistance if you live in the city during that time period. And it's I believe capped at, I don't remember how many years, but it's a few years, I believe.
And how many are available to?
So the city's budgeted $100,000 for this. So it's not really a specific number, it's a specific dollar amount. So when we run out of that money, then that the city would have to make a decision after they want to increase it or keep it the same.
For both programs?
I'm sorry?
Cars?
Yes.
Just for the housing, yeah.
Just for the housing.
Okay.
We've already started to see, though, where the cars are saving us some money. The gas mileage has increased, so we're using less fuel. Lots of studies have shown that maintenance costs end up being less because the vehicles are not really being driven 24 hours a day. And these are vehicles that we purchased normally anyway every year as part of our vehicle replacement. We just kept some of them a little bit longer so that we could roll this program out.
Okay, good.
Are those two, will those two items be additional data that will accompany your monthly reports?
Probably not. Do you want to? Do you want to see it?
I guess from certainly from a perspective of knowing that, I guess you said the city has allocated $100,000 for, that's for the rental as well as the homeowner's assistance right together. So, just, I guess just from a perspective of, certainly, equity, more specifically finding out who gets it, that sort of thing. I mean, just to, I guess if there's kind of a limited amount to figure out, where this money, unless is this something outside of your budget? So let me ask that question.
No, well,
If it's a budgetary item for you, then
I believe,
wanna see it.
yeah, I believe it is in my budget. I believe the money was put in the budget, the police department budget.
So yeah, so then I would want to see it.
What would you want to see?
Just I guess how much is being allocated.
Okay.
I don't think you could disclose as to who, right?
Right.
That's confidential information.
I would have to ask legal about that. I'll ask our attorney. But
Okay.
I can certainly give you numbers.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
And Chief Dekoff, I put a question in the chat for you.
You gotta make me find it. Hang on a minute. So drunk is more of a general category that would be anything to do with someone consuming alcohol. So it could be public intoxication. It could be illegal consumption. So it's more of a general alcohol category, if that makes sense.
Repeat the question because I don't think we could see it in the chat.
I'm sorry.
For the minutes.
I'll read it out loud. I didn't
okay.
interrupt him within
Sorry.
his flow, but I noted on the March 2021 nuisance calls for service that it indicates a 3%, and it just says drunk. And I didn't know if there was, I guess if that was like the formal category. If it's not, then maybe just kind of using intoxication or drunk sounds slang for me. So I didn't know, but again, I don't know how you put them. I don't know how you enter this information into the system, and which is the drunk be, is that appropriate? Or, I guess proper.
Which category? Which chart are you looking at?
It's the pie graph.
The one with noise, vandalism, disturbance. So you have alcohol related and then you have drunk.
Drunk.
And I don't remember ever seeing drunk before.
I'll have to check on it. I don't know. It's a nuisance call breakdown, so it could be how it's categorized in the CAD system.
Okay.
So I'll have to look at it.
And that's it. I'm sorry. Thank you.
So next is purchases. There are a couple of large purchases that have to do with radio replacement. And so I think those were in the in your documents. I believe I was notified that there were two, one for portable radios and one for car radios.
So those will be coming through soon.
Yes.
Okay. Personnel issues.
I'll let Captain Pedigo address that.
So I can give an update on staffing. We don't have any actual current personnel issues, but with staffing, we're currently at 89 sworn officers of that allocated 105. I have 6 officers that I'm awaiting final approval from the state retirement board. 3 of them are already certified and 3 are not. As the chief mentioned, the 3 that are not will begin at the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy on June 7th. However, that's they're going to do almost a month of virtual learning. They'll actually go to the academy July 5th. And we talked about those officers, I believe, in the last meeting, or I'm sorry, applicants in the last meeting. But once I receive final approval from state perf on accepting them into the retirement program, they will start on May 17th. Currently have another certified applicant who she is currently in backgrounds. Her background is due to me within about a week. And at that point, then hopefully if as long as everything goes well with that officer, which I don't anticipate any problems, then we'll move forward with her in the process. And I also have a total of 4 already certified officers that are applying with us that I will begin the hiring process, the physical and written testing, both this coming Friday as well as next Monday. I don't know if all of them will make it or not make it. I don't know obviously anything about them until we go through the process, but that would, if all of those were to meet our standards and be hired, that would take us to 100 of the allocated 105. But that's certainly quite a ways down the road. I do think it's important to note that although we have 89 sworn officers right now that are currently on the department, we actually only have 80 that are actually available for calls, and that's from the chief down. We've got 5 out on extended sick, 3 are out on extended military leave, and 1 is in the field training program, so he does not count towards, he's always with a field training officer, so he doesn't work on his own. So we technically only have 80 officers right now that are available.
I will note that those numbers are like 2003, 2004 levels of employment. So that is causing me great concern right now, but at the current time, I don't know what we do to change it. So
Can you briefly talk about 2003, 2004, or like it? I mean, I know you're talking about this low level. Was there something going on specifically, or
in 2003?
Like 2000, yeah. I mean,
Well, no, but that's just, those are the levels that we were authorized in that time. The community's probably grown, I'm going to guess 15 to 20% since then.
Okay.
Population's grown, the call for service has gone. So it's just, that's the comparison. We're dealing with 2021 issues with 2003, 2004 staffing levels.
I got you. I was not living. I was in Atlanta, Georgia during that time.
Right,
so
much younger.
I didn't know there was something happening in Bloomington where the police department was just like struggling to find people. It just sounds like it's just, you're just talking about the year. Okay.
You were probably.
Did you even know about Bloomington?
No.
Yeah, here you go. I'm sorry, are you done?
Which one, me or Rafi?
Well, both of you, yeah, sorry.
I'm done.
I'm curious, and I should know this at this stage of my career in this board. Can you, Ryan, can you go over what is the state certification process like when they look at candidates? What are they looking for to certify them? What do they certify them on the basis of what?
This, by certified, I'm referring to, these are all officers that are already sworn officers at another agency. So they've already been through the academy. If they meet our criteria and our standards and we hire them, they're not required to go to the academy again. They're already a state certified officer. So many of them come from the Indiana University Police Department. They get their certification while they're in school there, and then they apply with this once they graduate. Although we do have a few officers from other agencies occasionally that apply. A lot of them are young adults that just graduated from Indiana University.
Thank you. All right. I think we can move on to fire department business. Thank you.
All right, great. Well, thank you for the riveting conversation, Chief Dekoff. I love learning about your department. Now, with all jokes aside, in our statistics, there are a couple things that I want to point out that are alarming to us. If you look at the operational statistics, you will see that there is our highest level monthly call volume for our, honestly, since I've been a chief here. Some of this is attributed to the new protocoling system that we put in place. The dispatch system had not been updated for fire. Basically, the protocols are what dictate how we send our units, what we send them to, how much we send each call. When we were building the new protocols, we warned the emergency medical side of the world that we needed more than two. So currently, Bloomington operates under two protocols. That's for all of Monroe County, ambulance and ambulance dual. When the new protocols came out, there were up to 3,300 call types that it could be classified as. So channeling 30 to 3,300 calls down into two types has led to us going to some calls that we have never gone on in the past. So EMS is working on this. This is a living system. It will adjust as the community adjusts. We know that there is also another portion of this increase is caused by people are out doing things again. So, for all of COVID, we saw a lot of things, people in their homes are not getting hit by cars. They're not having bike accidents. They're not, out exercising and having chest pain. So we are seeing the reemergence, so to speak, of society, which is increasing that call volume as well. I will apologize. It looks like our print settings got messed up a little bit. So you're seeing a portion of the raw data. I will have that fixed before the next board packet goes out. We are still impressed with IU and their commitment to helping to reduce call volumes. We have actually established a new program. We did this with the Greek houses, where we started giving immediate feedback on the causes of alarms to their fire inspectors, but also to the dean of students. And we saw a huge drop off of basically the malicious or the nuisance alarms. We have been asked to start providing that same level of data for any IU building. And just this past month, we identified 3 calls to the same address within a 2 to 3 day period that they ended up tracking down and getting the RAs to keep an eye out for someone maliciously pulling pull stations. In the past history of Bloomington, that has expanded into 40 or 50 calls over a period of several months because we just didn't have the ability to track down who was doing it. IU took a very strong stance on this, and that has stopped. So I do want to give out a shout out to IU for continuing to help us drive down their call volume. On our response times, I will show you that we did update. This came up during our annual State of the Public Safety, that we had misinterpreted some of our data. The past months, we have been preparing for today. We had our ISO reevaluation. The ISO is the Insurance Service Office. That is the national scoring system for fire departments. I will tell you that we will completely rehash this response data. But with ISO, we had to look at our 4 and 8 minute response times, specifically for fire. That's how those standards were written. We have been reporting it for all calls, not just the fire calls. So we will have a new sub breakdown of fire calls, which have a different standard than the EMS calls. And then all those other types of calls we go on have even a different standard. But with that, our 4 minutes, which is the first unit arrives on scene for a working structure fire, we're sitting at a 89 to 90 percentile of our calls where we meet that. The 8 minute is not just the first arriving. The 8 minute is when the other units arrive. And we are sitting around a 90 percentile on that as well, which is 90% is the market industry standard for those. So we're showing numbers right now, but know that, like I said in our annual safety report, what we're not seeing is bad outcomes. So doesn't necessarily matter how we're reporting our statistics. We want to be accurate in it, but what we also know is we're not seeing bad outcomes. The prevention and public engagement, we're still kind of in a slower mode with COVID protocols. Today, I was authorized from HR to go ahead and extend a job offer for our fire inspection officer that we have been out without for almost a year. He was on extended medical leave until his medical retirement. Kind of like what Chief Dekoff said, this is a non-sworn position, not necessarily under your preview, but I want to let you know an internal candidate was selected and will begin on May 3rd. So we will actually be back to full staffing on our inspection division. There will be a slight, learning curve for that person to get on board with all the systems, but we do look forward to getting our inspection numbers back up starting this year. The training and education, again, I don't know how the graphic got messed up, but we are just below the red line. That's kind of a departmental tracking. That's if we were at full staffing. We have been down 10 prior to, and then we are also down 5 more. So understanding that we were down 15, between 11 to 15 positions during this last month of reporting, we're still on par for 100% of our members getting the training they need. But our departmental look at it is going to show low because we were so understaffed. And then if I may just move into the letters of accommodation, unless you have any questions about stats.
Yeah, Chief, something that you just said really at the outset of the presentation, and that was that you all are kind of responding to some calls that, and I'm just, I guess, adding my own word there, unprecedented or things that you're not necessarily, I don't want to say familiar with, or can you describe some of those, or?
Yeah, so to put it in perspective for the board, the ambulance and ambulance dual, which is what we've historically run on, are those really critical calls, the heart attacks, the major traumas, basically where somebody will die if somebody's not there very quickly. The lower acuity calls, which is, everything from stubbed toes to minor traumas, bleeding. I've been sick since, 3 weeks ago, but I decided to call 911 now. Those are calls we've never gone on because we couldn't afford to run that many calls. If we ran on every medical call inside city limits, we would add about 10 to 15,000 calls a year, depending on the year. So what we're seeing is a bleed over of some of those calls that we normally would not go on that we are going on. And again, this is a quarterly review. We say, hey, why do we go on that? We don't want to go on that. We adjust the protocols. And that's where I said it was a living system, but it's not necessarily we're going to things we're unprepared for. There are things that wouldn't normally require us to be there.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Okay, so for our letter of appreciation and accommodation, we've received a lot of verbal, but not necessarily anything in writing from our exploits going out into people's homes and providing the vaccination. So this one is on 2 of our members, Brandon Hudson and Gabe Moran, that went out. I've personally gone out on these. These are a lot of people that have not left their home in over a year. That we discussed that we're giving them a little bit of their freedom back. But this person was so excited about getting this that they decided to write us. So I will tell you that we're doing this every week. This is not the only person that we're affecting. And we are starting to get into some more of the mass vaccination clinics. We have done some with the Friend's Place. We've got ones on the books for Shalom. We just went one last week for a nursing home. So where there is available vaccine, we are now authorized to be able to give that vaccine, and we're trying to help take some of the burden off of the nurses that have been doing this for a very long time. Okay, so next up, I think we have general business, unless anyone has any questions on the letter of accommodation. Okay, for general business, like I said, we just did have a meeting with the ISO evaluator today. Years ago, when I first got here, we moved from an ISO 3 to a 2. For the board's awareness, the ISO scale is on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 is the best. 10 means you have no fire protection, essentially. And it is infinitely harder to move towards that 1. We are confident with a lot of the changes we've made that we will definitely stay at 2, and there is a likelihood that we will move to an ISO 1. What that means for our city, at about an ISO 6, you get the biggest break for homeowners on their insurance. When you get into the 3, 2s, and 1s, you start seeing breaks for more of the commercial industrial. With an ISO 1, it is a very nice representation of your fire department and how much effort they're putting into their training, into inspections, into pre-plans, into all the things that help make this community safer. And if we are awarded a 1, we will be the only one south of Indianapolis in the state that has that designation. All right, let's see. I don't have the agenda in front of me. I'm going off of memory. I think we have large purchases and then personnel, right?
Purchases, yes, large purchases.
Large purchases, we've been talking about it for a little while, but the new aerial that we put into service actually should have cleared this last claim cycle. So that is after the trade-in of $150,000 should be nearly $1 million expenditure. You should also see claims coming through for the 10 new recruits that just came on for gear, equipment. So we'll be somewhere in the realm of about $60,000 for all of that. And then we are finalizing a few projects that were approved for capital replacement and capital projects, such as like a mobile air cart. So those will all be coming up, and those all have some fairly large ticket prices as well. But we'll get into more details when I know that they're going to clear the claim cycle.
Okay. Thank you for your report. Now, personnel issues, are there other personnel issues other than the promotions that we're going to be entertaining?
Just to let you know, tomorrow we meet with the local pension board to approve 3 more recruits to start. So what we have done is something that's fairly unprecedented. We've never had 15 vacancies in this department. In the written history of our department, we can't find where we've had that many vacancies. So we've had the previous 10 that just started. Most of them went to EMT class. They're going to be finishing up here in the next few weeks. And then we're going to hire these next 3 to come in and start fire training all together. Those 3 will then do EMT training at the end of that after we swear all of them in. So we did have 2 fail their perf evaluations. We were planning on bringing 5 to the local pension board for approval, but only 3 are going to come up, which means we will be running 2 positions short for the rest of the year. And I think Chief Washell may have reached out to the Madam Chair, because we do have to get your signature on those so that we can take them to the state pension board this week.
Okay. All righty, now to the promotions.
All right, I provided a memo outlining the start date and, basically our request. We've already approved both of these members on the promotional list. I will point out that both of them have now exhausted our promotion list. So with this, we'll have to run another process from here on for any future promotions. And we will make sure that we bring them to the board personally or through Zoom so that you get to meet them and ask any questions you need to ask. But I am asking that you promote Robert McWhorter Jr. to chauffeur with the effective date on the memo, and that you will promote Kyle Coons to the rank of captain with the effective date on the memo.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the promotion of Robert McWhorter to chauffeur effective April 5th, 2021?
A motion to approve firefighter Robert McWhorter to chauffeur dated April 5th, 2021.
I second.
All right, I have a motion from Rafi and a second from Luis. Rafi,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Luis,
Yes.
Trudy.
Yes.
Motion carries. May I have a motion to approve the promotion of Kyle Coons to captain effective April 17th, 2021?
So moved.
Second.
All right, I have a motion from Luis and a second from Rafi. Rafi,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Luis,
Yes.
Shruti,
Shruti, I think you're still on mute.
Oh, sorry. I said yes.
That's okay. Motion carries. All right, do we have any old business?
Seeing none, the CERT ARV deployment report. Did we have,
It was not used any.
okay. Certification of payroll.
Yes.
Yes. For both.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Any new business? All right, do we have anyone in our audience, members of the public who want to speak in the petitions and communications part of our agenda? And the limit is 3 minutes per person.
there are no members of the public.
Okay. All righty. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you all.
We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you.